Got any questions before we get started?
No.
All good? All good to go? You ready to do this thing?
I'm ready to do this thing.
This thing. That's the southern thing.
Oh.
I'm from Tennessee. In case you couldn't tell by my accent. Right?
You tell it all.
Yeah? Where are you from? I know you were born in Canada.
Yeah, I was born in Toronto, and my parents came to California, to Hollywood, California, when I was 5. And we became American citizens when I was 10, exactly 5 years later, which was how it went at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pretty much grew up in Hollywood, California, and then we moved to West LA, and it was a beautiful, it was a magnificent state.
California?
In the 50s and 60s.
Yeah,
60s.
That's what I've heard. I've heard rumors about how wonderful California used to be until it got inundated with liberals.
Yeah, it was definitely the Golden State.
Or the beliefs of liberals changed, I guess.
Right.
Maybe. Yeah,
right.
I think that's more along the lines of what actually happened.
It was idyllic growing up. Nothing like what, to some extent, my kids had it, but after that life was completely over.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. Let's get started.
Okay.
All right, lead heads. We are back with another episode of the Talking Lead podcast. I'm your host, Lefty. 10 years of leducating the uneducated here on the Talking Lead podcast. Not only that, but we bring other things to the plate as well. We are a diverse show. We bring all kinds of diverse guests. We talk about different topics, not just firearms, but we show the relevance of the 2A community and the diversity of the 2A community, and that it's not just within the firearms industry, but it branches outside the outdoors industry. It goes into the sports industry. It goes into every industry. Everyone loves their Second Amendment rights, and we're gonna have a guest on today that I know you lead heads will appreciate and will love to hear her story. But before we do that, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Kel-Tec. Go to keltecweapons.com, use the code LEADHEAD, and you're going to get 15% off anything in their pro shop there at Kel-Tec Weapons. Firearms excluded, obviously, but any of their accessories, their cool hats, shirts, they've got some other things there too that I think you guys will really enjoy. And with the holidays coming up, you might as well jump on and get your shopping done early. Go to Kel-Tec Weapons. Mission First Tactical. Dave and the gang at Mission First Tactical have really been taking care of you lead heads with the giveaways that they've been doing on the show and the discount code that they have offered you. Use the code LEADHEAD there, and you're going to get 20% off any of your purchases at Mission First Tactical. That's any of their AR accessories, their tactical holsters that they have. They've got holsters for pretty much any firearm that you can think of, and their dump trays, their tactical wallets. For our video audience, if you're into making your stuff next level cool, they can even print custom graphics on your AR-15 magazines, and those dump trays that we talk about here on the show. I use them for armorer's trays. So when I'm out working on my guns or cleaning, I use the dump trays, and they've got all kinds of cool ones there. You can get the Talking Lead logos. You can get your own custom logo if you want. The options are endless when it comes to that. So go to Mission First Tactical, check them out. They even have pepper spray and bags now, so they've got gear bags for you guys. Go check them out. Those are new. You're gonna really love those. I've got a couple. I used to have them nearby. I don't know where they're at right now, but go to their website, Mission First Tactical. Use code LEADHEAD and get 20% off. And of course, our good buddies at Seal One for all your gun cleaning, gun care needs. Seal One has you covered. CLP, clean, lube, protect, and it really helps prevent and clean up corrosiveness. So if you've got some corrosive spots on your guns or you want to prevent that, use Seal 1, and that's going to help. You go to seal1.com, Seal 1 and done. Use the code LEADHEAD, and you're going to get a big fat 25% off from our buddy Dwight at Seal 1. So in case you didn't get an opportunity, you hadn't listened to the previous episodes, make sure you go back and check those out. The AK Corner dropped earlier this month, so if you haven't had an opportunity to check out the Talking Lead AK Corner, this episode, this was our BFT 47 Century Arms giveaway. So we gave away a BFT 47 rifle, Talking Lead, and Century Arms. And you lead heads that participated, thank you for taking the time to submit your entries. We did narrow it down. I'm not going to tell you who the winner was in case you haven't listened yet. Go back, check that episode out. It was a tough battle, but we did finally narrow it down and picked a winner out of all you lead heads. So this episode, we have the owner, the creator, the proprietor, I don't know. It's a nonprofit organization. It's called Jews Can Shoot, and Miss Doris Wise is joining us today. She's the president and founder of Jews Can Shoot. It's a nonprofit civil rights and advocacy group which honors the memory of the Holocaust to preserve, protect, and defend the Second Amendment. Doris, welcome into the Talking Lead podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time, especially on such short notice. Appreciate you filling in for this episode. And in talking to you, I know our listeners are going to really appreciate your story, and they're going to love what you're doing with your organization.
I hope so.
So just kind of give us a high level, and we're going to talk details in a minute, of Jews Can Shoot, what your organization's all about.
So at this point, I provide education and information from a variety of sources in one place to people so that they are informed and knowledgeable about the importance of the Second Amendment, the attacks on the Second Amendment, and what's being done to protect it and what's being done to infringe on it.
Yeah, and you guys offer a newsletter. You sent me a couple of your newsletters, and I was going through those, and those are very informative. Great source for finding out about all the attempts to take away our Second Amendment rights from the anti-gunners and the governments, and what the media is doing to contribute to that as well. I probably haven't seen a more encompassing source for this kind of information. So
thank you. I seem to have the resources to find information that is also it isn't out front in front of everybody. Right. And and people send me stuff, mm-hmm. which is also good, which you have to look for to find. And they find it, and I put it together, and I try to create a theme every week. And I found that the theme is often created for me by what the anti-gunners do. Right. So you can actually, if you follow the newsletters, you can see how they go from one or two things to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. You see the trend. And yeah. So I'm hoping that I have always believed that knowledge is power. And of course, it's the power to actually then want to do something with that power, which I hope people will do. And that the Second Amendment they'll realize how important it is to our survival. And that's the message that I bring from my history. And we're gonna learn more about how you came to start Jews Can Shoot. We want to hear about your background and your history. But first, Doris, before we do that, we do this little segment on the show. It's called The Planes and Trains. And this is where we take care of some jackwagons and we honor some heroes. So, Gunny, bring that train in.
Hoorah, Semper Fi, do or die, hold 'em high at 8th and I. It is time for the Talking Lead Jackwagon of the Week, so brace yourself, baby.
Hoot, hoot. So the train has stationed, and we have some jack wagons that we want to take care of. And I was telling Doris a little bit about this segment. So I'll kick it off just to kind of give you an idea of where we're headed with this. And if you want to take part, then you're more than welcome to take part. And it just so happens that, when I was going through your one of your newsletters, this jack wagon was kind of like top of your news articles there. And it has to do with the credit card companies now are tracking gun sales. They have a special code, I guess, or itemized
merchant code.
Merchant code. Thank you, Doris. You know that I reach for words sometimes, so feel free to spit those out for me.
So do I. So we'll help each other there.
Yeah, so the three big major credit card companies, Visa, MasterCard, and American Express, are now tracking gun purchases and sales. Doesn't say that they're banning them or preventing you from doing it, but they are tracking them now. Which maybe that's going to be the next thing that they do. But it concerns me as to why all of a sudden, and it seems like a massive change or policy that they've implemented here all of a sudden to start tracking the firearms purchases.
Well, they're calling it that they're looking for suspicious activity, which is interesting because first of all, we don't know how they define suspicious, but I think that those of us who, who've been in this world for a while already have a pretty good idea how they use language, how they use words.
Yes.
So
words have meaning, right?
Excuse me?
Words have meaning, right?
Words definitely have meaning, and nobody knows how to use it better than the left.
Yeah, or the media.
I have to hand it to them. So, to them, suspicious is law-abiding citizens buying guns. Okay. To us, we know that criminals don't typically. First of all, they don't typically buy a gun. And secondly, they don't use their credit card.
Exactly. They don't typically have a credit card, or if they do, it's someone else's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So from your newsletter, this is an article from Bearing Arms, Ryan Petty, September 15th, 2022. Credit cards and gun purchases, the end game for gun control activists. So I just want to read a little bit of this to you leadheads, and you can go read the whole thing. But it says, it's been a little over a year since the New York Times published its report on how mass shooters use credit cards to purchase firearms. In the wake of numerous mass shootings, gun control activists have been looking for new ways to crack down on firearm sales. They're always looking for ways, aren't they?
Always.
Frustrated by the lengthy legislative process, which is the legal process. So frustrated by going through legal means, read between the lines here, and recent setbacks at the Supreme Court, setbacks they're calling them. One of their latest strategies is to push for the creation of a new merchant category for firearms retailers and to pressure credit card companies to use it to classify firearms-related purchases. But what is the end game for gun control activists? Is it to create a private gun registry or to flag suspicious purchases? Well, they already have a gun registry, for one. Whether you want to believe it or not, they have, and they can get access to everyone who's bought or purchased a firearm.
Right.
And we've seen news stories here recently where the ATF have gone into gun stores and basically confiscated their list and have copied their list of purchases, which is illegal for some of the information that they're gathering on those. But anyway, there's more to this story. Impacts law-abiding gun owners, might be felt sooner than anyone realizes. Last Friday, Reuters reported that an international standards body has approved. So this is an international. This is not a United States. This is not an American body. This is an international. Has approved the creation of a merchant code for gun retailers following pressure from activists who say it will help track suspicious weapons purchases. At a meeting this week, a subcommittee of the International Organization of Standardization approved what is known as a merchant category code for firearms stores, a spokeswoman said. The approval of the new category code clears the way for banks to process gun retailer payments to decide whether to assign the new code to merchants. The codes were requested of the Swiss body known as ISO by this New York bank. I'm not even going to try to say their name, which calls itself a socially responsible lender and investor. Okay. The conventional wisdom...
It's another form of social scoring.
Absolutely. The conventional wisdom is that these gun control advocates are creating a kind of private surveillance system and registry of gun-related purchases in the United States with credit card processors, using the new merchant code to watch for suspicious purchases and report their customers to authorities for further investigation. So again, suspicious. What's suspicious?
That's exactly
because there's no law limiting how many firearms I can purchase.
But the ATF has already shown up at somebody's house, because as I recall, that video that the homeowner and the gun owner made was that he had bought multiple guns, so multiple
right.
to them is two.
Sure.
Right?
Well, more than one is multiple. That's the definition, right?
Exactly.
Again, words have meaning. So
words absolutely have meaning, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to post an article that came out from one of those Lefty sites, one of the state-sponsored Lefty sites. It's not NPR, but one similar to that,
right.
Where they actually tell us exactly what they do with words and how they use them. We should learn from them. That's my opinion. We should definitely learn from them.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into history here in a little bit with you, and that we should never forget and we should learn from history.
Right.
This guy goes on to say there are a few potential problems with this line of reasoning. First, it is unclear what exactly would constitute a suspicious purchase, which we just talked about. Even gun control activists cannot define how they believe this will work. Second, even if credit card companies were able to identify suspicious purchases or buying patterns, it's not clear that they would be legally obligated to report them. Third, as reported by Cam Edwards in an interview with Mark Olivia of the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the new merchant code will not give credit card companies the ability to look into the specific items purchased, like a firearm or ammunition, which calls into question the rationale for the utility of the new merchant code. So he goes on to talk about this, but again, this is another way that the government, the anti-gunners, are going about keeping track. And don't think that this is just where it stops, is with a merchant code, because they're going to start this to be able to control what you can purchase firearms-wise, how much you can purchase. There's no ends to what this is going to create.
It also creates another issue on our side.
Taxes.
Excuse me?
I was taxes, because I use my credit card when I go, do my
Right.
taxes, so I can, categorize, and it's another way for them to keep up with taxation as well.
Right, but it has a chilling effect on us. So now that if we want to go buy a gun or ammunition or anything at a gun store, we're gonna think twice. Do we buy one gun today if we wanted to come in and buy two? Or it's very chilling. Do we use cash? Do we go to the ATM first? I think that is also the point. It's to stop us on our side as well.
I was going to read on, because this says, just this past year, activist investors have pushed more than one firearms manufacturer to adopt a human rights policy. So he goes on to talk about how these activists, and we've seen the firearms, Daniel Defense is one of those. during one of the mass shootings, their firearms was used, and their feet were put to the fire about their rifles. But they're not the first. There's several. They always try to make somebody accountable for the shooting other than the person. Mm-hmm. But they want them to do study the safety of its products. And we all know that a firearm, it's not a, how do I want to say this? A firearm does damage.
Firearm is
it's
just
destructive.
A tool.
It is a tool of destruction. Right. That's what it is. So I don't understand the study the safety of its products, other than they're not going to be hurting the end user. That's the way the study should be, but that's not the way they're intending them here. They're intending them as your products are being used to go out in these rare instances of these mass shootings. And they, mass shootings, the definition there, again, words have meaning, mass, more than one, that's, if you look it up, that's what it is. And the definition of that for governmental tracking and media reporting changes constantly as well. So this is my jackwagon, the credit card companies going and implementing these new ways to track firearms purchases. So I'll leave it there. I don't want to get too deep into the woods. Do you have anything else to add to that?
Not directly. A couple of things. First of all, the two cards that I've noticed right away that are not on that list, mm-hmm. and I haven't found it anywhere, are the Discover card and the Citi card and Citibank card. So I don't know if they are included, but they're clearly not mentioned. So mm-hmm. I would be interested in finding out if they're doing it too. So that's an alternative. I
would assume that they all are going to do it. Just because the three major ones are doing it, I don't see why the other ones are good, because they're not. None of them are pro-gun either, and it's no skin off their back. And I'm sure the government's probably going to add some sort of incentive for these companies to start implementing that code and doing the tracking.
But I do recall that Visa was reluctant to get on board with this, and they were finally convinced. I don't quite know. We don't know what kind of pressures
manifested
itself, but they were convinced.
Yeah, all three of them. There's something in it for them. Otherwise, why would they care? So they're getting something out of this for doing this.
True.
Again, the end. What's their end game? Why are they doing this? There's got to be a reason. For every action, there's a equal and opposite reaction. So something got these people, and it wasn't this international, this Swiss ISO, and maybe it was because we talked about the New World Order,
right.
We've seen a lot about that here lately too. So maybe it's not just our government that wants to track this. Maybe it's
I'm sure
this
it is.
Illuminati that's right out there. All right, enough about that, Doris. Let's move on. Now, do you have a jackwagon?
Do I? There are so many right now. Lefty, right now. The big phenomenon right now is the credit card companies.
Yeah.
And the efforts to chill our ability to our ability to find a way to defend ourselves. And so specifically, not anything right now, not anything that pops into my mind. You picked out the one that I think is the most critical at this moment and the most direct.
Okay. Very good. As far as mine go, there's plenty that we could have, but I don't want to take up too much of your time because we want to talk about you. But what about heroes? Do you have any heroes that you would like to nominate and put on Lead Force One?
Well, there's two of them. Both of them are Jewish. Unfortunately, they're both passed away. One is Rabbi Meir Kahane,
mm-hmm.
Who definitely advocated for Jews being armed.
Tell us a little bit about him. I'm not familiar with him.
First of all, he was assassinated.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Did he live in the United States?
He was in Israel, and then he lived in the
Israel.
United States. Yeah,
Okay.
and he definitely advocated for that Jews be armed. And he came up with the saying, "For every Jew, a 22." Okay, to which I and others have added, "To stay alive, a 45."
Let's just stay alive a 45. I like that.
Well, a 22 is
Hey, it'll get the job done. It's better than nothing.
right. So, while you're there buying a 22, you can buy a 45 also. And then there was Jabotinsky from way before, from during the Holocaust, who very much advocated for also for Jews to defend themselves, and for a Jewish army during the Holocaust, which was negated, unfortunately. And he also encouraged the Jews to leave. I mean, it goes to my history. He encouraged the Jews to leave Europe and to leave Poland when they could, because there was a window of opportunity when Hitler let them leave. But that's a whole other story. So those were the two. There are more. I just don't have them right off the top of my head right now.
Sure, and those are great candidates, and they deserve a seat on Lead Force One. Lead Force One is our.
There is. I have a friend, a
Okay.
Facebook friend, who wrote a book. His name is Ross Meyer, Meir, and he did write a book about all the Jews in history who advocated for Jewish self-defense.
Okay, very good. See, you got the spirit of the planes and trains.
It's definitely there.
So,
It's definitely there.
I'm going to give you props again, and I'm taking my hero from your newsletter. This was a Guns America Digest is where this story comes from. It says, heroes stopped mass shooting, but mainstream media never covered the story. And all too often, that's the case. What was the mall shooting that happened recently? That gentleman that
was Dickin, Eli Dickin.
Okay, and that was hot and heavy for maybe a week, and now you've not heard any more about it. It's been
right
because it was a justifiable, legal. They couldn't, as hard as they tried to villainize this guy saving lives, they just couldn't do it.
What came out of that? I actually had a friend who wrote an article on that, because Eli Dickin was carrying in a mall that had a sign that said no, that no guns, the sign that is actually interpreted as an invitation to criminals. That's my interpretation.
Gun-free zone.
The no gun zone is an invitation. You are cordially invited to shoot us up. That's what the gun-free zone is. That's what the no gun sign. And he was carrying, because I think it was Nebraska, if I recall, that sign has no force of law. Mm-hmm. So he was safe. I live in Arizona, and a friend of mine in Arizona wrote an article that I think in Arizona is what he said was that there are certain parts in Arizona where that sign does have the force of law, and if somebody had come in there and done what Eli Dickin did, he would have been arrested. So there is that issue with the force of law of those signs.
Well, and that's the thing too. Here in Tennessee, a business can put up one of those signs, and they can request that you not bring firearms into their establishment. Right. It's not against the law, but if they ask you to leave and you don't leave, then you're trespassing, and that is against the law.
Well, and then you can go somewhere else. But
absolutely. But I'm just saying that it's
or a courthouse or something.
It's not enforceable.
You may not have that choice.
That's true. But that again, that's why I advocate concealed carry, because then nobody's going to know until you need it, and you don't have to worry about it. And
Definitely.
if you save lives, then you worry about that later. You worry about the consequences later. But the guy's name is Elijah Dicken, and the most recent story I could find that's coming up on the interwebs, it looks like July 19th, and it's CNN, and I'm curious to see what they say about him. But I'm not going to read this whole thing here. It looks like they're just giving actual user accounts of what's going on. Doesn't seem to be an opinion article here. So,
But the story disappeared.
yeah, like I said, I just did a search on it, and let me put his whole name in, Elisjsha, because when I do Eli Dicken, Eli Manning comes up. Let's see.
I don't think you'll find anything more recent.
25 days ago, 23. Here's one 12 days ago. But that's not him. That's somebody else. Mayor Dickens, Atlanta. No. So like 29, 25, 23 days ago is like the most recent one. If you're doing a, this, I'm using DuckDuckGo for my search engine. I don't know how left or right they are with their engines and their, what are those things called? Were they
search engines?
Search engines, but the formulas they use. What are those called? Algorithms.
The
algorithm, yeah. Bystander at the mall was clearly a hero. Point, counterpoint, good guy with a gun, a hero, even if gun control advocates. It goes on to say there, and all these are calling him a hero. Well,
he was definitely a hero.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But I would think that, and that's like and I'm not saying that Kyle Rittenhouse was a hero. By no means am I calling him a hero at all. But, that story kind of, after the judgment, just disappeared too from the mainstream media. They didn't really hold on to that because, it was another one that they had lost. So there you go. That's, and I don't know if I think we threw Elijah Dicken on the hero plane here. So in case we didn't, he is one of our Leadhead Brigade heroes as well.
Definitely.
It's never too late to bring in a hero or call somebody out as being a jackwagon on this show. So you can go back centuries if we need to call somebody a jackwagon. Well, very good. So Leadheads, if you want to submit your nominations for jackwagons or Leadhead Brigade heroes, talkinglead@gmail.com. Send those to me and I will read them on the air. And for you, if you have sent those and I haven't read them yet, I will get to them, I promise. I promise. All right. So Gunny, get that train out of here, and we want to learn more about Doris and her nonprofit organization, Jews Can Shoot.
Hey Leadheads, Dwight Settle with Seal One. Just here to talk to you and tell you a little bit about our product. Seal One CLP Plus is a bio-based, non-toxic product. It comes in a paste, liquid, aerosol, and pre-saturated bore-specific patches called sealskins. They all do the same thing, just different methods of application. The best way to use our product is to start with a clean firearm. And there's two reasons why I say that. First, you start with the Seal One CLP Plus by field stripping your firearm and covering the entire firearm inside and out, bore, barrel, everything with the Seal One CLP Plus. You'll see how easy it spreads around. You'll want to wait about 15 to 20 minutes. Then you come back and you want to wipe it all off. So you see how easy it is to put on and remove. And the second reason we say to use a clean firearm is you'll find that it's not clean. We're going to pull out more carbon that's been left behind with whatever product you've been using before. Okay, it takes about 3 cleanings. So I like to say a clean shoot, clean shoot, clean shoot. Just normal usage before the Seal One CLP Plus has removed whatever product that you were using before and has seasoned the firearm. It's kind of like breaking in a cast iron skillet. And after that first cleaning, you will notice a difference. And with each successive cleaning, you will find that it gets easier and easier to clean. Seal 1 CLP Plus is a dry lubricant and is designed to work as such. You will find that malfunctions are virtually eliminated when used properly, because the majority of all malfunctions are caused to carbon buildup. And with the Seal 1 CLP Plus, the carbon does not build up. Seal 1 CLP Plus is safe on all metals, plastics, composites, polymers, rubber, wood, and leather. Seal 1 CLP Plus is a one-and-done formulation. No other products are required or needed to clean and lubricate and protect your firearm. That's why we say Seal 1 and done. Seal 1 is a proud sponsor of the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade. Use the code LEADHEAD for a 25% off discount.
I love the name. I love your logo. I'm going to do a little screen sharing here for our video audience, Doris, and I'll go back and forth as our conversation continues. So,
yeah, it's a pretty direct name.
So here's the website. I'm going to go to the main page here. So our video audience, you can see it. And how did you come up with the idea to start this organization, Doris? Jews Can Shoot.
I had an organization before, starting in 2007, called Children of Jewish Holocaust Survivors, where I had the idea that if people were informed, again, by what was going on culturally and politically, and in the media and everything that was happening, that they would see the route that was being taken to repeat history. And so what I did is I had events every month for about 7 years at a hotel when I lived in California, in Los Angeles at the time. Mm-hmm. And where I had speakers and panel discussions and films, and I tried to cover every single thing that I could think of. School propaganda, is the dangers of the threat of Islam. I covered Israel. I covered anti-Semitism. I covered the First Amendment. I covered the Second Amendment. I covered threats to our country, threats to our world. I did a couple of events on EMT. I tried to cover everything. So it was every month for 7 years. And I have the videos still. There's a YouTube channel called Children of Jewish Holocaust Survivors. And I filmed every one of the events, and it's a terrific historical archive. That's David Capel. We talked about the Second Amendment and genocide, which he's very prominent in discussing, by the way, and writing about. So
you did this every month for 7 years.
Every month for 7 years. There's about 100 of them.
Wow, that's amazing. And you guys can go, like she said, you can go to her YouTube channel, and it's Children of Jewish Holocaust Survivors. Never Again. And she's got all of those videos there. And I was listening to the one with the gentleman that you just said.
David Capel?
Yeah, I started listening. I didn't check the whole thing, but he's got a very good account of the histories leading up to of the Holocaust and what the Jews did after the fact. Some of the prisoners of war, or whatever you want to call them, how a lot of them they tried to uprise, and some of the success stories.
The resistance.
The resistance, thank you, and some of the successes that they had. So.
Yes, they did. It was amazing.
It was
the successes they had with the
and you don't hear about that. You don't hear about that. You don't hear about that much at all. But
there's a couple of wonderful movies about that. One of them is called The Resistance. It's very well worth watching, and it does show that we did resist. If we had resisted before, okay, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah. We'll talk about that later. So all of these videos are minimally edited, okay, and all of them include the question and answer period, which some of it is very, very extensive, which I found equally as important as the event itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, and
so they're all there.
There's a lot of information here. So,
mm-hmm.
so the organization. Continue on how you got started with the organization.
So at around 2013, I met Alex Kaczynski, who was at the time the chief judge of the Ninth Circuit, which is not exactly a well-respected.
Not recently, anyway. Yeah.
Not for a very long
several
time.
Decades. Yeah.
But Judge Kaczynski was and is a very conservative thinking, brilliant man. He was appointed by Ronald Reagan, and at one point, I understand, if I'm correct here, he was actually on the short list as a for the Supreme Court for SCOTUS, and he was I think I believe firmly because of his views, much like Judge Thomas and Justice Thomas and some of the others, he was vilified to the point where it just made sense for him to step down. Anyway, he wrote a dissenting argument, which I have on my Jews Can Shoot website. And even one part that I think it's right on the homepage on the sidebar, where in a 2003 decision, he wrote the dissenting opinion, where he said, among other things, that were very important, all of which are very worth reading, the entire thing, but the part that stood out to me and grabbed me as if it had grabbed me in my heart, he said that if the Jews had each had a rifle and 50 rounds, we would not have been so easily herded into the cattle cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can see how that affects me.
Yeah.
And that just did it for me. So that's when I knew that there was a change that I had to make, that I had to move from there. And also, Alex was Judge Kaczynski was very, very, very pro 2A for obvious reasons. He's also a child of Holocaust survivors. We're about the same age. We grew up, we didn't know each other, but we grew up just a few miles from each other in Los Angeles. And so we have the same kind of mentality, the same kind of thinking. So about the day after Obama was elected, I and millions of others made our way to a gun store and bought a gun. And then a little bit after that, I decided that I wanted to do training, because that's what most of us, the fact of the matter is, I do believe that most gun owners are responsible, and we do get trained. First of all, it's fun to shoot, so we get trained. And so I thought how fun it would be if I trained with others, and one thing led to another, and I found some trainers who were willing to do it, to work with me. And so I started Jews Can Shoot, and I sent out, I think the first one was called Moishe Get Your Gun, which was a play, that's a Jewish name, a Yiddish name, and a play on that, Annie Get Your Gun. Right. And I had quite a few people show up. I think the first one was like 8 people showed up and paid a fair amount of money, and we got trained and we had a good time. And then it just grew from there. And then at one point, I realized that the events were no longer of any value. And I said, if you can't see by now, I said to my people, to my audience, if you can't see by now what's happening, there's no more events that I can present that can convince you. And I think it's time for you to go out and buy a gun and learn how to shoot. And then I did training for about 3 years while I lived in California till I moved to Arizona. And I brought over 400 people.
To Arizona?
No.
From California to Arizona?
400 people. I brought at least 400 people to shooting. And nice. I will say that more than half were Jewish.
Very nice. Very nice. And just to be clear, your organization is not just for people of the Jewish faith. It's for everyone.
My organization is a message from Jews.
There you go.
Just like,
that's a good way to say it.
Any of the other organizations that are that come from an ethnic or other kind of background.
Yeah.
That promote. We are giving a message to Americans.
And I love your, and I don't know if you call it a slogan or what, but nothing says never again like an armed Jew. That's genius.
Thank you. That's my one talent, by the way, is coming up with these slogans.
Coming up with slogans. I'm pretty good at that too. We share something in common. I like that. But yeah, that is awesome. And something that we haven't mentioned yet is that you are the daughter of Holocaust survivors.
I am.
Talk about that. Talk about your parents.
Okay, so my parents were both from a town in Poland called Lodz, Lodz. My father ended up in Auschwitz among a couple of other of the concentration camps. He had a wife and 6 sisters and parents and 1 brother. The only survivors was my father and his brother.
Mm. So they were actually in the concentration camps.
They were killed in the concentration camps.
Yeah.
My father survived because he was a brilliantly talented tailor, and the Nazis were incredibly vain, and he made them look good. So when they came for their fittings, they would bring him a rotten apple or an onion, and it was those, which he shared with his brother, and those few extra calories brought them just past the starvation point, which is how Hitler came up with the calorie count, where he starved them, but kept them just at the level of starvation without completely killing them, but ended up killing them. My mother, however, was able to escape to Uzbekistan, and then after the war, she was smuggled back, and of course they had no homes to go back to. My mother also lost some family as well, and then they both ended up in the same displaced persons camp in Germany, where they found each other on a list. There was a board, which I call the original Match.com, where they could find each, they weren't looking for people who like to walk on the beach in sunsets, but they were looking for people who knew other people. So
location kind of a tool to help locate.
Correct. They saw who survived. The story that I was told, and there were a lot of stories that I was not told, by the way, till I was in high school, because my parents, particularly my father, didn't talk very much about it, which is probably why he died younger than he should have. Would have. And so my mother had a brother who was already in Toronto. They knew each other from that. They met, they married, and then they tried to go to, they tried to sponsor themselves. First, they tried to sponsor themselves to go to Palestine, which is what Israel was before it was reborn, before it came back as Israel. Mm-hmm. And that, I don't know why, I never learned why they didn't end up there. Then they found, a friend of mine recently found some paperwork where they attempted to come to the United States. They were denied that. And after 3 years, they were finally given permission to come to Toronto, Canada in 1948. And so they did, and then I was born there a year later.
Okay. So that is one of those stories that you see movies about. Maybe you should do a movie about your parents. I think it would make a great movie, no doubt. But very brave of your mother and father. Now, was your mother? Was she in any of the concentration camps, or
no? She
got out. She got out before they rounded her.
She was in the ghetto. There was the Warsaw Ghetto. There were ghettos, and she was in the Lodz Ghetto. And from the Lodz Ghetto, they I don't know the story. They were able to smuggle her out of there before they were taking people to the camps. And they smuggled her out and got her to Uzbekistan. But then they had to smuggle her back after the war.
Wow. So did your mother share more stories with you than your father, I assume?
Not necessarily. Not really so much. I overheard a lot of stories because most of their friends, if not all their friends, that I grew up with were other survivors and other children of survivors, just like me, first generation children of survivors.
Yeah, and this didn't happen that long ago. Obviously there are still people alive that were a part of this, involved, with this atrocity, but some people still refuse to believe that it even happened. That's the level of ignorance that they're passing down in our children these days, and they're trying to teach away history.
Well, they're doing that with all history, American history too.
Every kind of history. But that's how we learn. We have to have these stories so that we learn from them and that they don't repeat themselves. And
well, that's what if we don't learn from history, we're doomed.
We are doomed. But when you see people trying to change the narrative of what actually happened and hide and bury the facts, bury what actually happened, that's just a big fat clue that they're trying to do the same thing. Very similar.
Absolutely.
And you hear of this in our schools these days, where they're doing the CR, critical race theory, and all this teachings in our school, and we're just shaking our heads. I don't have children, so it's hard for me to keep up with what's going on in today's school systems, but I hear from my family and friends what's going on, and I'm just shaking my head like that can't be happening, but it is. It is actually true and happening.
Well, that the idea there with what the schools are doing, besides rewriting history, is to separate the children from the parents, is to break up the family.
Yeah,
and dictators like Hitler and Stalin and Lenin, they were big on that. Also,
they were big on indoctrinating the youth to their way of thinking. And how do they do that? Well, they try to separate them from the parents. And that indoctrination is one of the things that, like you said, Germany, that Adolf, his regime, were big on. And the youth, they would turn their parents in if they were doing anything to break,
Exactly.
the will
And that's
of
what
the
they're doing. Isn't that what
Fuhrer.
they're doing now with climate change and all, do your parents have guns and
Well, that and the
I
gender
mean,
stuff that's going on, and it's just all this stuff that you just shake your head at. People our age are just like, a male is a male, a female is a female, and I don't get all
that's
this.
pretty basic. That's
It's
pretty
science. It's science.
Uh-huh.
You can't. It's like math. You can't change math. Math is math. 2 + 2 is 4.
Right.
It will always be that way. A X
Right.
chromosome and a Y chromosome will always be that way. It's anyway. But the similarities is what I'm getting at as to what happened then and what we're going through now. All the gun control that we're experiencing. I mean, we have already too many, laws as it is, not just firearms,
Absolutely.
but laws in general. We have laws on top of laws that are laws for laws.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. But I wanted to talk because I'm fascinated because you're one generation separated from, what happened, the Holocaust.
Correct.
So you're probably going to be my closest source that I ever get to of actual hearing about what happened, and I don't think that needs to be lost through history. So, children of the Holocaust need to keep telling the story and get it out there. So if you don't mind, if there are some stories that maybe your father, your mother shared with you that you could share with us, we would love to hear those.
Well, I don't. As I said, my father didn't talk about it. I didn't know that my father had a wife going in before the Holocaust until I was 17 and doing an essay on it for an assignment in high school. Mm-hmm. So he didn't talk about it. And even then, when he knew I was interviewing him and I had to do this assignment, I could see that he was having a very hard time. So I didn't hear it.
Didn't press it.
There is, however, and it's available on the internet and it's on my website, a video by, and I don't know if she's still alive, but her name was Kitty Wortham, W-E-R Worthman. I can't remember exactly. And she is a survivor who did a lot of speaking. There were many survivors made it their business to speak everywhere that they could. And they were a tremendous source of knowledge of what went on there. And her video is, in my opinion, mandatory listening for everybody. And
you said her name is
actually,
Kitty Worthman?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And you said that's on your website? Where can I find it on your website? I'm there now for our video
There's
audience.
Search there. So there's the whole one and there's a part. And she ends up, she goes through all the details and the history of how Jews were disarmed. And it's not like that's her. It's not like identical to what they're doing because it doesn't have to be identical, but how it's done is the same and the result is the same. And that was how she ended her talk. Keep your guns and buy more. Because that was in Hitler and every dictator, that is what they do. They disarm the population.
They disarm and they uneducate them. It starts with the uneducating and then the disarming. And, again, like you said, it doesn't have to be the exact same, but it can take different forms. And
right, exactly.
We're seeing a lot of that in in America.
Right.
Over the past 20 years.
When some of us say that people ask, is there going to be another Holocaust or expecting another Holocaust? They're asking if we're expecting the same thing where people are put into cattle cars and taken to concentration camps and gassed. Well, a Holocaust can manifest itself in different ways. It's not going to be exactly the same, but once they disarm us, once they take away our Second Amendment rights to defend ourselves, they're already going after our First Amendment rights to express ourselves and talk to each other. They have complete control.
Absolutely. Once they go after one, all the other ones.
Cars.
Yeah, after they get one, then all the other ones will soon fall.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter which one they get.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The food supply, the medical, our ability to get medical care, their education, separating people. I mean, it's history repeating itself.
Absolutely.
It's just today's form versus yesterday's form. And just because it wasn't yesterday's form doesn't mean we shouldn't recognize it. It's the same. The result is the same.
I was trying to find if there was like a dedicated site maybe to Kitty. I was looking for that. There's a lot on her when I do a search on her. But you guys can go to Doris's website, and the video is there.
Right, and I'm pretty sure that I posted I posted the excerpt, which obviously was important to me about the guns, because sometimes people don't have the patience to watch the whole thing. Although I think the way she puts everything out there is just beautifully done, and I admire that she had the ability and the strength to relive that was the hardest thing for people to talk about.
Yeah.
Is that every time they talked about it, they relived it.
Sure. And you can't imagine, what these. There's no way. There's no way that we could put ourselves in their shoes. But again, the importance that people still hear these stories from. And is she? I don't know. Is she still alive? She's probably not still alive, is she?
I don't know.
Yeah. Probably very few Holocaust survivors that are still alive today. But again, the first generation like yourself, the more that we can encourage them to, keep their mother and father's, aunts and uncles' stories going, the better for all humanity. And
there's the Holocaust museums have a lot of information.
Yeah.
And they're very worthwhile going to. People like me don't need to go there because we live it. It's part of us.
Sure.
But that's where people can get a lot of information. And then Steven Spielberg did where he recorded, I forgot what it was called actually, where people Holocaust survivors came in and they filmed where they spoke about their histories. And that would be a very valuable resource for people who are really interested in hearing the personal details of what people lived through, who were able to talk about it. It's interesting. My parents did not do that. They weren't. Some people
and it's
could.
like my grandfather. He was in World War II, and he didn't ever talk about it.
Right.
Yeah, you didn't, and it was known that you didn't even bring it up. You weren't to ask him about it or anything. So, unfortunately, as much as I wanted to talk to him about it, I didn't really get a whole lot about it. But she was 84.
That's good what you found there, actually, Lefty. That's really good what you found.
Yeah. So Kitty was 84 in 2010. So I highly doubt that she's still with us today.
I highly doubt it too. Yeah, my father was born in 1912.
Okay.
No, that's in 2010 when she was 84 in 2010.
Yeah, so this is 2022, so 12 years later.
Right.
I mean, she could possibly be, but
maybe.
Usually there's like a Wikipedia or something on people like this, and here's a rational wiki. Rational wiki. I don't know what that is, but Well, that's unfortunate. I mean, I wish, but either these events that you had there for 7 years, and you had these people coming in, these speakers coming in. I'm sure you heard a lot of stories from those people. And did you get any Holocaust survivors that attended any of those seminars that you?
I'm sure I did have some survivors. I had many survivor children of survivors. They did not. I mean, we didn't talk stories. They were the ones that the people that came to my events. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, she passed away at 96.
Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of there was a story in the New York Times magazine several years ago, and I know that I still have it, that showed that Eastern European Jews, meaning survivors like this, had quite longevity in their lives. We lived a long time.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was just this year then, I guess. 96.
Yeah, she spoke for the Eagle Forum. That's what that video was out.
Yeah. June 14th of this year, she passed away.
Oh, wow. Just a few months ago.
Yeah.
Well, she did good with with her life. I will say that. If we listen to her.
Absolutely.
That's the only way. If we listen to her words, if we listen to her message.
So with your organization, obviously the 2A is front and foremost, the Second Amendment rights. And you talked about how before this, you would go out and you bought a gun and you'd get some friends together and you guys would take classes and whatnot. With Jews Can Shoot, are you still organizing group training, group shootings?
No, I stopped doing that when I left California. I was mainly focused on beginners, and so that people would go beyond. They would find their own training, because I felt that people would be more inclined to continue, instead of making it a one-off where they take one class and they have fun, and that they would continue if they had to find their own, someplace close to them, an instructor that they could work with. Sure. So I mostly did beginner pistol, beginner rifle. I did some classes on cleaning. I did classes on dry firing. I did classes on how to buy a gun. I did one evening, which I still found memorable, in Culver City in the Los Angeles, just outside of Los Angeles. There is a gun store called Martin B. Redding, and if you've ever heard of it. And the two brothers that own it are also children of survivors.
And this is in California?
In Culver City.
Redding?
Retting. Martin B. Redding.
Oh, here we go. Martin B. Redding Guns. Redding.com. Let's see if this is them. Martin B. Redding Incorporated. We buy guns, one gun or entire collections. Please contact us. And this is in Washington Boulevard, Culver City, California. So probably one of the few. Because you can't
have a gun store in Los Angeles.
I was going to say one of the few probably gun stores in that area.
Right. So that's where I bought my first gun, and I became a regular customer and a friend. And I wanted to do an event where people who had been taking my classes for a while would come and look for a gun. And I wanted to make it comfortable for them, because it's not, it can be very intimidating going to buy your first gun. Yeah. So they were actually unbelievably wonderful. They opened up their store just to us, at 5 o'clock one evening, and I had about 50 people who showed up, and a lot of the salesmen, I think almost all the salesmen volunteered to stay for that evening, and the manager did a talk with them, and then they went and they looked for guns and they worked with salespeople, and a lot of my people bought guns. They bought their first guns that evening.
And what year was that? Rough ballpark.
Well, it must have been before 2015. So
Okay.
maybe
Gotcha.
like 7 years ago,
Yeah.
7-8 years
So I
ago.
pulled up his website here, and he's got a picture from 2020. The pandemic surge, and he's got a picture of the line like going around the building.
Yeah, that's
people.
already an iconic picture.
Yeah.
And it's not I don't know that it's from 2020, but I'll.
It says
bet
it
it's
is. It says photo
Oh, is that what
taken
it
in
said?
March of 2020. Yeah.
Oh.
Turned MBR into the face of the pandemic surge in gun sales.
Right.
I love
Well,
that.
that's what it looked like the day after Obama was elected, too.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, no doubt.
Uh-huh.
And around the country, not just there. I'm sure around the country. That's what it looked like.
So that
Wow.
was I remember him telling me that they sold more guns in those 2 hours than they did on a Saturday. So I was that made me really happy.
Yeah.
You see that I felt like I had some impact.
Well, absolutely. I'm sure you did. And I would like to see you start that up again in Arizona.
Well, Arizona has plenty of
There's never enough. Never enough. One more is not enough. Keep going.
But there's a lot of shooting ranges and indoor and outdoor, and there's a lot of trainers. So when people call me now or email me and ask me where they can go and train, I suggest that they find a place nearby to them and go and work with a few different trainers and see who they resonate with. But definitely to train with different trainers, because the trainers all have different styles. You learn something different from all the trainers.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a good philosophy to have there too.
Right. And you shoot indoors, you shoot outdoors, you shoot pistols, you shoot
rifles, shotguns,
all of
crossbows.
And everybody has to find their way and to get involved. And I think that and a lot of these gun ranges have different activities and groups that meet more often, and it's good to get involved with them, because then you also make friends in your neighborhood, and you can go shooting with them in different at different times. You have and it's fun that way.
Anytime you get a group involved, it always ends up hopefully with fun.
Mm-hmm.
Founded in 2012, IWIUS is the USA-based subsidiary of Israel Weapon Industries Limited of Ramat Hasharon, Israel. The IWIUS line of products includes the Tavor X95, the Uzi Pro pistol and SMG, the Galil Ace line of firearms, and the belt-fed Negev line of light machine guns. IWI's mission is to bring the highest quality firearms with real world-proven reliability to the U.S. commercial and law enforcement market. IWI-US are proud sponsors of the Talking Lead AK Corner and the Lead Head Brigade. Check us out at www.iwi.us and on social media under IWI-US.
Now it's time for the Talking Lead
Facts to fight the myths.
And is there a myth out there maybe about Jews and firearms or firearms?
Exactly where you're going with this.
that you'd like to bust?
Yeah. Okay. So I always get this question, which isn't really a question. Sometimes it's a statement. So the question is, how come so many Jews who have with the Holocaust in their background, blah, 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 are so anti-gun? So first of all, it's not so many. Okay, it's a lot, but it's, first of all, we are not immune to having stupid people. Okay.
Right.
Okay. There's a lot of stupid people, and and that's one thing. They cross party lines, they cross religious lines, they cross ethnic lines. There are stupid people. I can't explain.
There's no cure for stupid.
Right. Exactly. Okay. And there are plenty of Christian people who are anti-gun, and atheists who are anti-gun, and this, that, and the other who are anti-gun. And like I said, when I started Jews Can Shoot and the training, I had plenty of Jews who showed up to learn, and plenty of Jews who continued to shoot. And there are many Jews who do shoot that we don't know about because they don't talk about it. They don't. And I'm one who, for better or for worse, I'm very outspoken. Maybe you can tell, and I don't know if it'll ever come back to bite me, but I respect people who don't want to talk about it, who don't want to tell people. So you never know when you meet somebody who is Jewish whether or not they have a gun, or whether or not they shoot. They're not going to come out and like wear it on their chest or anything and say, I have a gun.
Unless they're wearing one of your, I'm going to say, unless they're wearing one of your hats or shirts.
Unless they're wearing one of my hats, and exactly, or a shirt, or drinking, a mug or something, and then,
right.
And that's fine. But most people don't come out and speak about it. So, and also, I think that people would be surprised to learn that that there are gun manufacturers and gun distributors and ammunition manufacturers that are owned by Jews.
So one of our sponsors, IWI, obviously an Israeli company.
Right.
Yeah.
And and Guns America is owned by Jews.
Oh, it is. Okay. Did not know that.
And so there's quite a few of them, and names that wouldn't. The reason I mentioned them, and I'm not going to mention others, is because they actually have two Hebrew letters on. If you look for it, very tiny Hebrew letters.
Guns America. I'm going to pull it up. Go. Keep
unless
talking.
they sold, they do.
Let's see. They got an eagle. Let me share my screen. Am I sharing my screen? No.
Not yet.
There's a
black. See, go all the way to the right at the top. Top at the way on the black part.
Oh, okay. Down here?
Over the other way. The other right.
This way?
The other way. Oh,
this way.
All the way the other way. We're over the girl's head.
This girl. Okay. Let me move
all
you
the way
out
to
of
the top.
It's at the top. That's as high as it goes.
No, right there.
Oh, this?
Yes, sir.
Ah, sneaky. But it's, yeah. So for our listeners, if you go to gunsamerica.com, and what she's talking about, the very top of their website, you go where their card is on their top. Up above that, there's some Jewish letter.
Hebrew. It's two Hebrew letters.
Hebrew, yeah, Hebrew. Now, what is that?
It's BH are the letters. B and then BH is an acronym for the Hebrew words Baruch Hashem, blessed is God.
Okay, there you go. Okay, I mean, not that changes my opinion. I still like Guns America,
No,
so maybe even like them even more now.
Right, but the point of what I'm trying to say is we aren't. I do not believe that we are more anti-gun than any other group of people.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Okay, and you can. I mean, I call it stupid, but it's that's really not fair. That's what they believe. They're not right in what they believe, but they don't think I'm right either.
Sure. And that could go with anybody who doesn't agree with your opinion on something.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Very good. That was a good fact to fight the myth. I like that. Thank you, Doris. And you were telling me, here's another thing too, that there's an actual passage, a religious passage.
Yes.
So talk
in the
about
Bible, and I learned this from David Capel, and I have a mug that's not. I don't have it in my. I have a mug and a shirt and a mouse pad and all kinds of things. I have it in Hebrew and I have it in English, and it's from the Babylonian Talmud, which is one of our books. And what it says is it's a command from God to us that if someone is coming to kill you, rise up and kill him first. Okay? So if that's not self-defense, I don't know what is.
It sounds the opposite of turn the other cheek.
We do not have turn the other cheek in the Torah. There is no turning of cheeks in the Torah.
Yeah. So here it is, and you've got this on your website. And can you say it in Hebrew?
I cannot.
It's Haba ihar getcha hashkim ihargo. If someone
good. That's the transliteration.
If someone is coming to kill you, rise against him and kill him first.
Right.
Words to live by, definitely. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about you have a store on your website, and you've got the T-shirts with the Jews Can Shoot. I'm going to click on that, make it a little larger there. And it says
that's
nothing,
one of my best sellers, actually. Just like that.
Yeah, nothing says never again.
Uh-huh.
Like an armed Jew.
And I also have that in patches. I make that in patches.
You get the patches.
And then I had some women who asked me, women like to wear long sleeves, especially to the range. I'm a fan of that myself.
I like long sleeves.
Having had hot stuff be hit
hot
on my
brass.
arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I made some of them in that. So I have that. My best seller is right down there is my kippah. I have one in my hand.
And the kippah is the thing that you see
is what men wear.
Men wear at the back of their bald spots, but it's
as reverence to God, exactly.
They hide their bald spots.
Excuse me?
I said that's what they use to hide their bald spots.
That too.
That too.
Okay. And then I have my different hats and a beanie.
I like the infidel hat. Very nice.
yes.
Tis the season
I have
for
that in a mug as
beanies.
well.
You got a apron, a chef's apron?
Yes, I have 3 of them.
Yeah, you've got water bottle, and you got these cool pins.
And I've got these cool pens. Well, that picture that you have in the hand, that is a bottle breacher.
Yeah, this one over here. Yeah.
Yes.
50 cal bottle opener. And you got your mugs for those who like to indulge in hot
And my most popular mug is that's the enamel mug, and on the opposite side. And if you click on it, it'll go to the other side, and then you have that Talmudic mandate. See, that is my best seller in mugs.
In mugs, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. And then you got hoodies. And then here's mouse pads, and you got all kinds of cool stuff here. So, Leadheads, go check out her store.
And I'm just in the process now of I'm redoing my store, because right now it's a little loving hands at home, because I created it myself several years ago, but I'm redoing it. And I have a brand new logo with a brand new name that's more active. Instead of calling it the Armed Jew Marketplace, I have a great one called Stay Armed. And it is in the shape of a Star of David, done beautifully. And it's called Stay Armed, because that is more active, and that's my message.
Nice. Very good. So, Doris, I posted on social media letting our listeners know that you were going to be our guest, and we have some questions.
Okay.
And what we do on this...
shared it also.
Oh, okay, good. And we'll check. Did you receive any questions from your post?
I didn't. I don't think so. Okay. I got some likes, but no questions.
No questions. So, well, they're not eligible then, because what we do here is we reward our listeners by participating. And when I make posts like this and we get questions, we will randomly somehow go through and we'll pick a winner, because I've got some Seal One that I'm going to give away to one of our listeners. A nice packet from our sponsor, Seal One. One of you who participates is going to get that. And then also one of our dump trays from Mission First Tactical. You will get one of those as well. Logo depending. I don't know what kind of logo we'll put on there. We'll put something cool. And would you like to reward our listeners with maybe a hat or a shirt or anything like that?
Absolutely. A hat. Absolutely.
A hat? There you go. Very good. Maybe a beanie since it's...
They can pick one of these.
Oh, okay. Nice. Ooh, I want the one on the left. I like that.
This one?
Oh, my left.
This one.
That one. I love that one. Yeah, that one's awesome.
Black one.
That's the
one
I will
send one to you.
Oh, I appreciate that. You don't have to do that. Reward our listeners.
If somebody wants one of these, a kippah, I would be delighted.
Ah, very nice. So why don't we give one of those away also?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll do that too. Very cool. All right, we'll start with Pew Pew RN. That's Eric. What is your preferred handgun and home defense gun?
Okay, so my preferred, like my carry gun, is that what do you think that's what he's asking me?
Yeah, he's asking what is your carry gun and the one you use for home defense.
My SIG 365.
Very nice.
Hands down.
And do you have like maybe something for home? Do you have like something bigger, maybe a shotgun, or you got an AR or something for home?
I have an AR, and I have in the house strategically placed a couple of full size 9mm.
Very good.
And a Glock that shoots 40 caliber, which is one of my favorites.
Well, that was my very first handgun was a Glock 23, the 40 cal, and
mine too.
I would reluctantly switched over to 9mm over the years, but I still have it. It's back there behind that wall, and I actually have. I'll tell you about it later. I got it custom engraved.
My first handgun that I bought it online. I didn't know exactly what I was buying, but I showed it to a friend of mine who was a police officer, and I said, I can get this gun. I was in California, and that was the time where California still allowed you to have a gun sent in. I think you can't do that anymore. And it was a 40 caliber, and I got that. And then I had another friend who, as a housewarming gift, brought me 1,000 rounds of 40.
Wow. That's a heck of a gift.
And that's the best housewarming gift I ever got.
Hey, that's what I tell people. You ever want to, stumped on what to get me ammo.
Exactly.
You can never go wrong with ammo.
Right.
All right. He also asked, PPRN, how does the organization fulfill its mission to honor the memory of the Holocaust?
By warning people that the Second Amendment, that we are lucky as anything to live in a country that has a Second Amendment.
Or a Constitution.
Within the
and our Bill of Rights and all that, yeah.
Yes, and other
countries don't have that.
Countries that have a Second Amendment. America is the only one that has one, the Second Amendment, that's supposed to be without restrictions. And that's where we need to keep it. So that's how I honor my parents and other Holocaust survivors, by keeping people armed, so that the dictators and the tyrants can't do what they did to my ancestors.
At least not as easily, right? We can put up some sort of a fight. AKM Archer, please tell me IWIUS helps support this organization. I feel like the Galil has always been the Jewish Excalibur. That's funny. You know what the Galil is?
Yeah.
Remember the Galil? Yeah. It's one of my favorites. Brett Badal. Brett says, please talk about Jewish military service and how not all the people serve at some point. And I don't think that...
Well, that's Israel. I don't delve into Israeli politics.
Yeah. But there are some American Jews that feel led to go over there and serve as well.
Yes, and they're qualified to do that. And there are some, I can give you the name of somebody.
Yeah.
If you would like to interview him, he probably would be a
I know lots of
terrific
people.
interview.
I know lots of people.
Okay.
When I think of Israel, I cannot help but think of the iconic Uzi submachine gun. Again, you have to forgive my listeners; they're gun people. So,
Okay.
some of these questions may not be relevant to you. I may fill them. Iconic Uzi submachine gun. I'm not sure how to make this into a question relevant to the discussion, but it's the first thing that came to my mind. Okay, well, I love the Uzi too. I will leave it at that.
Okay.
Giddy up. What do you feel that the media gets wrong with Jewish culture, especially when it comes to guns? I think we covered a little bit. Is there anything else you'd like to expound upon on that?
No, but I don't know that the media does it as much as individuals do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I find that it's more often than not, which really distresses me, is it's other Jews who are saying this, who are saying that Jews are, how can you have been through the Holocaust and be we can't be painted, all of us, with one brush any more than you can paint anybody with any group of people with one brush.
Right.
It's just, and I don't know what the point of that conversation is, and like I said, I don't know the answer other than there are stupid people everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I think you explained that question through our conversation here. So I think you answered it already. Ryan Reisner, when did you decide you were going to own your first gun? And you touched on that a little bit too, but go ahead and tell us again.
One, when the whole idea of defending myself with a gun was when I read Alex Kaczynski's dissenting opinion, and then a few years later, when Obama was elected, and I was able to put two and two together. And I wasn't the only one, and I wasn't the only Jew.
He also asked, were your parents influential to you as you grew up and decided to become a Second Amendment advocate?
My father died when I was younger, and my mother lived with me till the age 99, and she pretty much supported anything I did.
And I would say just, yes, they were 100% influential because of, they went through the Holocaust. So maybe directly or indirectly, they influenced you.
Right.
Bonafide Breed, what is one misconception that people have had about you as a female entrepreneur, shooter, and how do you prove them wrong? How did you prove them wrong?
Well, I've never had any because I don't fit any of the mold of a shooter. I mean, because nobody would look at me and think, oh, she's carrying. Nope.
How about the entrepreneur side of things? Have you ever had any negative things come your way being a female entrepreneur?
No, actually, no, not.
Good. That's good. Just keep the negative stuff out of your life, right?
Either that or I'm not paying attention.
It just doesn't bother you, right? You're like,
Yeah.
Just brush it off. He also asked, if you can have a weapon collab with any firearm company, who would you choose and why would it be IWI?
I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure what he's asking.
I think probably just if there was maybe a design, something that you would like to change, or maybe even just putting your brand on, a gun and having your logo and having it associated with Jews can shoot.
Glock.
Maybe like on a Galil.
Glock.
You like to go with, so that is ironic, right? German manufacturer, Israeli touch, or Jewish touch.
Well, I've always had Glocks. I know that a lot of Israelis in Judea and Samaria carry Glocks. They're reliable. They're simple. They work.
That's my.
I like fancy shoes and fancy purses, but my guns have to just work.
That's right. That's my preference too. I carry Glock also. It just fits my hand better. I shoot them good. Now there is one called a Canik. It's a Turkish gun that I think you would like. If you like Glocks, I think you would like the Canik.
The what is? The what?
It's called the Canik. Yanik. It's Yanik in Turkish, but it's Canik. Canik.
Okay.
One of our sponsors, Century Arms, imports those, and they're for the price point, the performance that you get out of them, really, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I've got any questions on Facebook here. Yes. Jacob Rozecki, longtime listener. In your experience, how hard has it been to persuade other Jewish people to take up firearms?
Oh, I saw that yesterday, and I believe I've addressed it. Not even one bit.
Not even one bit. There you go.
When I started Jews Can Shoot, nobody, and I sent out the invitation for classes. My classes filled up right away.
Yeah. I think
And
maybe
nobody wrote to me and said, "Why are you doing this?" Nobody did that.
You didn't get any pushback?
Nope.
No pushback at all. Very nice. That's why I think you need to continue doing that in Arizona. All right, so let's pick some winners from those questions. Which was your favorite of those questions? And then we'll give them your hat. We'll award them the hat.
The black one.
Whichever, yeah, that one.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm going to let you pick because you have the questions in front of you.
Okay. So I'm just going
and that last gentleman, I think, that asked the question about how with a pushback.
Jacob Rozecki.
I believe he's Jewish.
Let's give him the bald spot cover. What's it called?
It's a kippah. Kippah.
Kippah. Get to the kippah. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger used to say. Get to the choppa.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jacob. So you have won the kippah. Email me, talkinglead@gmail.com. Reference this episode, what you won, and obviously we're going to need your mailing address, and I will forward that on to Doris. And that goes for all the winners. I need all that info. So I'm just going to randomly go through here. Stop. Ryan Reisner. He asked a couple of questions. He asked the one about when did you decide you were going?
Yeah, that's a good one.
To get your first stone, and then your parents. He asked about the parents. So he gets the hat.
Okay.
So Ryan, talkinglead@gmail.com. Let me know what you won. And then the seal one, let's see. Let's just stop. Bonafide breed. You get the seal one. And he asked about the weapon collab, and then the Jewish military service, which we've had some people on. I've had an actual lieutenant colonel from the Israeli forces on. I've actually I've trained with some Israelis. I took an Israeli defensive course, so I've been through some training there. So you win that, Brett, or not to Brett, but Bonafide breed. And then let's give the tray away to, how about AKM Archer? He asked a couple of questions there too. Yeah, I like the Jewish Excalibur. That was cool. So that's AKM Archer. We'll do that. All right, there you go, Leadheads. Again, talkinglead@gmail.com if your name was called for one of those prizes. And I'll forward your info to Doris, and then I'll send you the seal one and the dump trays. So, Doris, I really appreciate you being on and sharing your story, sharing your company with our listeners.
And I appreciate you having me on, believe me.
Would love to have you back on, and I want to hear that you're doing things in Arizona that you were doing in California. You did a great job, and I'd like you to keep that up. Those seminars seem like they were phenomenal.
The seminars were phenomenal. They were absolutely phenomenal.
Probably a lot of work, too, I'm sure.
A lot of work, and I put out all my own money for that. I charged $15 a head, and that was it.
That was it.
And I filmed everything, and I put out. That's how important all of this is to me.
Well, very
the
good.
one mark I want to leave when I leave this world is that it doesn't happen again.
Never again.
Never again.
So leadheads, go to Doris's website. Again, give them your website, your social media where they can get in touch with you.
So the Jews Can Shoot website is jewscanshoot.org. My store currently is named the Armed Jew Marketplace. I am on Facebook under Jews Can Shoot and the Armed Jew Marketplace. I'm on LinkedIn, where I met you.
Yeah.
And I'm getting into some of the other social media places, and I'm going to go into the more conservative ones as well, like Getter and Truth Social and some of those other ones, because
Well, good luck to you on that. I can only keep up with the Instagram and the Facebook, and I really don't do those very well. But so go.
I do think the conservative ones are the way of the future.
Well,
I think Facebook it's on life support.
I don't know. We'll see. I just think they need to become less political, and well,
if they lose us, they lose everything.
Well, more of us need to jump ship, I guess.
Yep.
Because I don't think they're hurting. They still got, I don't know, what was it, like several billion people on there? I don't know. But yes, we have to make a statement. That's the best way to do it, is not use their services if you're not happy with them. Just that's how consumerism works.
That's right.
All right, leadheads, go show Doris some love. Let her know that you're a leadhead and you appreciate her being on. And go to that store, and more importantly, you can buy some of her products to help support the organization. And speaking of supporting organizations, those that make this show possible, go show them some love. Keltec, go to keltecweapons.com, go to their Instagrams, like their post. And as you guys know, and we were kind of talking about there, these social media platforms like to bog us down with all their algorithms. So the more you share, the more you like, the more you comment on our post, the more we're going to get out there and try to get around some of these algorithms. So go to Keltec Weapons, show them some love, use the code LEADHEAD on the website, get 15% off. Go to IWIUS. I don't have a discount code set up with them yet, but let them know they are responsible for sponsoring me at several of these guns events. So let them know. With the October coming up, we've got all the AK-47 events and competitions coming up. Kalashtober, Red October, Kalash Bash. There's several of those that are coming up. Defiant Munitions, if you want a discount on some ammunition, use the code LEADHEAD, all caps. You get 10% off from Defiant Munitions. High quality defensive ammo from our buddy Pete over there. And Mission First Tactical, go to missionfirsttactical.com, use code LEADHEAD, get 20% off. Seal1.com, again, LEADHEAD, 25% off for your CLP, gun cleaning, lubrication, and protection product. Seal 1 and done, baby. And we are done with another episode of the Talking Lead podcast. Doris Wise has been our special guest, and we greatly appreciate her again for being on. Doris, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I learned a lot, and hopefully our listeners have too. All right, leadheads, until the next episode, I want to see some comments on our social media. I want to hear from you, talkinglead@gmail.com. And as always, leadheads, keep your loved ones close.
Keep your firearms closer. And nothing says never again like an armed Jew and an armed American.